Welcome to Marriage Moments with Jay
and Randa.
And we're so glad to be here with you guys for a special Valentine's Day edition of Marriage Moments. We just came from having a great evening out. And on yesterday, we had an opportunity to interview our bishop, Bishop C.T. Hanchy and First Lady Doris Hanchy, two awesome individuals of the faith that have been married. And we're going to let them speak to those that are considering marriage, and especially to those married couples. Valentine's Day shouldn't just be a one-day event. We should show love all the time. So, without further ado, here is Bishop Charles Hanchy.
Enjoy.
Bishop is a wealth of knowledge, having been married now how many years?
I was married to my first wife for 30 years, and Doris and I had been married 26 years, so I've been married all my life for the most part.
Wow. So we're going to get to that. Bishop, on Valentine's Day tomorrow, there will be many outward acts of what some might call love. But I would like to hear from you some things that people need to really understand and consider about love or being in love. What is love and how does that relate to marriage and relationships?
I think the most important thing for people to understand is that love is not a feeling. It's certainly not a passion. It's not, you don't fall in love. Love is an action. We choose to love.
Amen.
And it's always a choice. And people do all kind of things on Valentine's Day. It's a shame they don't do it every day. Because love is always so important. Treating your mate with respect. I do, of course, have done a lot of marriage counseling in my years of ministry, and I'm always appalled at people that disrespect each other and want somebody to fix it. There's no magic bullet for that. I can't fix it. But if you disrespect each other, repent, get it straightened out, say I'm sorry, and sorry is at second best, but certainly you need to say I'm sorry. But love is how you treat people every day, even in times when maybe a little intense, because everything's not always perfect, but even in imperfect times, always treat your mate with great respect. I've always thought about marriage and this thing called love. I mean, if something breaks down in the house, you don't burn the house down. You fix what's broke.
Yes.
But people, something breaks in a marriage, and the first thing they want to do is burn the house down, call each other all kind of horrible names, scream, throw things, and you know, and then wonder what happened to the magic in their marriage. Wow, you killed it. You know, it can be rekindled, but it takes some time sometimes, because if people disrespect each other, they lose respect for each other, and it just takes some time. So start treating each other with respect. This lady right here, easiest person in the world to live with. She really is. We sometimes we don't always see eye to eye, but we don't have to. Because when we don't see eye to eye, I'm not going to belittle her or put her down, and neither does she. We talk or we work through it, but we always love each other. And I think that's a secret. Valentine's Day should be every day.
Amen, Randa.
That's awesome. I agree.
Valentine's Day should be every day. You posted on Facebook this week, Bishop, for men concerning this thought. What are you giving her for Valentine's Day? Men who give a Valentine gift to a woman they abuse and disrespect are only manipulators.
Ooh.
Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Demonstrate your love for her continually, and your gift will be prized. Constantly demonstrating your love is much better than apologizing daily.
Well, and again, to say that same thing again, And I think, bottom line, it's all about respect. We teach from a book here, Love and Respect, which is a powerful book. It says it all. When you're not happy, when the bills are not met, and you're struggling with your finances, or some crazy thing gets on your nerves, hey, that don't change anything. That's still your mate. And so I never look at Doris, and I think I can speak for her. I never look at her, and I don't treat her as me and her. It's us. We are one. And so to mistreat her is to mistreat me.
Oh, that's so good.
And I believe that is, if everybody had that understanding, some people, and I'm not knocking everybody, but I see a lot of people have separate bank accounts and they worry about where the money went. We have one account, and I don't have money and she has money. Right now, I'm the only one working, but it's not my money, it's our money. And so I think that's the secret to the oneness of marriage. Not too many people live in that.
Amen.
It's selfishness is the way to destroy marriage. And so what I put on Facebook was just, and like I say, I've dealt with it so many years.
Yes, sir.
People, I told a little story from the pulpit here a number of times, but I was pastor in another city, another state years ago. And a couple came and they wanted some help with marriage counseling. And I said, well, let's talk about it. And so we talked, and they both talked about what each other was doing wrong, and they were kind of critical of each other. And when they left out, the woman, I heard her say to her husband in the parking lot, "You dog." I called him back in, and I said, "I just figured it out. I know what's wrong with your marriage. You're disrespecting each other." And bottom line, that's what it's all about. It's not about just giving a gift, but it's about being there for her and her for him through thick and thin, hard times, difficult times, because there's always difficult times. But we have to make up our mind. I'm not going to burn the house down because there's a difficult time.
Amen.
We're going to love each other if the house burns. And so treat each other with respect. And I guess that's where I'm at today. I see so much disrespect in marriage.
I know this is loaded, but it just jumps back out at me. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church.
Boy, is that not it? That says it, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because if how many times do people get in fusses and fights because the biscuits were burned, or somebody didn't get up on time, or somebody was running late, or, we can just fall out over the stupidest thing. And man, aren't we glad that Jesus Christ does not cast us out because of our mix-ups and our failures?
Amen.
He loves us in spite of our sin. He loved us while we were yet sinners.
Yes.
And a husband, and I believe that God puts most of the weight of marriage on a man.
Amen.
He didn't say, "Wives, love your husbands as Christ loved the church." And in fact, he said, "Husbands, love your wives." And so as the head, God being our head, us being the head in our home, we have to love our wives.
Yes, sir.
And love says, it don't matter, baby.
Yeah.
Amen.
It's not the end of the world. And most of the things that people fight about, it's not the end of the world. It's just you're selfish. You want it your way.
Amen.
It's really good.
What about that, honey?
So many people, when it comes to Valentine's Day, they're wishing they were with someone, avoiding being with someone, thinking that there's this special person. I asked you this before. Is there such thing as a soulmate? That singular person whom God has made for you?
No, absolutely not. In fact, that's part of the problem.
Yes, sir.
Because you get married to somebody, well, I don't think we were ever supposed to be together.
That's good.
That's foolishness, because you don't have one woman, and what if she's in Argentina? No, God fixed it, and He designed us. And He said, now, if you find somebody that's compatible and you like them, I'm going to take more time than you want to give. I saw a movie many years ago, before I was ever in church. Jimmy Stewart, Shenandoah was the name of the movie. And a guy came and showed Jimmy Stewart, I'm going to marry your daughter. And Jimmy Stewart said, do you like her? And he said, oh, sir, I love her. He said, oh, I know you love her, but do you like her? And I think people want to get into the love. As a matter of fact, don't want this to be X-rated, but people get in the bedroom, but they never sit down and learn each other.
Yeah.
They don't learn who they are.
Yes.
And so I think it's important. And I think one of the questions that maybe you're going to ask is about, concerning this very thing. So I don't want to get ahead of you, but goodness.
Feel free, Bishop.
Get to know the person that you're with,
Yes, sir.
that you're going to marry, and then make a commitment. And marriage is a commitment to Christ
Oh.
and to your mate. It's a triangle, the strongest structure known. And so if you make a commitment, that means we're in this for the long haul.
Yes.
We're not talking about divorce. Counseling with a couple in Kentucky years ago, they were going to get married, and I ask oftentimes when I'm counseling, what makes you feel like this marriage will work? And a young lady said, well, if it don't, we can always get a divorce.
Wow.
And I said, well, I'm not counseling any further because you don't understand what marriage is. It's not about divorce. That ought to be eliminated from everybody's vocabulary.
Amen.
It's about sticking it with it and making it work. So that's probably, and I'm sure it is. I'm sure that that's probably almost ancient thinking anymore, but it's biblical truth.
Yes, sir. Yes,
It's
sir.
biblical truth. Husbands, love your wife. Cover her like Christ covers the church. She makes a mistake, so what? Put your arm around her.
Amen.
Say, I'm sorry. Get things fixed. It's your responsibility. And so, once again, I think men have the biggest responsibility for making it work.
Our theme tonight is that divorce is not okay.
Well, that's exactly right. It's not okay. and people say, well, we're incompatible. No, you're just two hard-headed people. Divorce shouldn't be an option. Stick with it. And, and I know, hey, if somebody turns out to be an abuser and you're going through physical abuse, I don't tell people they need to stay in that.
Yes.
But and there are certain circumstances, if somebody's unfaithful, the Bible does, but it's not necessarily a right just because they're unfaithful. Even if they're unfaithful, you can work it out. You can make that work. But people don't even need an excuse for divorce anymore. They just get them. And I think that's so sad. And it's sad for families. It's sad for children. Everybody suffers.
Could you talk about the transition and how you went from being a widow to the courtship process? Because my next question came from someone specifically that says, how long did you date or the courting process before you decided to marry with First
I'm
Lady?
probably going to surprise you on that. Probably going to surprise you because courtship, I think, is important for one reason, not because you're smooching or worse.
Yes.
Courtship is about learning people. It's about knowing who they are,
Yes, sir.
knowing their value system, their morals, their family background, how they react when they're angry. I mean, it's learning people.
Yes.
And if everybody could stay out of the motel rooms and
Come on, Bishop.
that kind of stuff, and just learn who they're talking to, get to know them. So when my wife passed away, she had been ill for 2.5 years, and it was, I don't want to go through that, but it was a very difficult time for me and her. And so when I went to Natchez pastoring a church, the amazing thing was that I'm no prize. I was not quite 50 years old.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
First lady.
I was not quite 50 years old, 48, I think. And widow women started piling into the church, and it scared me to death. And I'm talking about very vocal in their desires and wants. I had known Doris. In fact, I had pastored her family, her mother, her brothers. Matter of fact, our brothers were saved under my ministry. I pastored her for 8 years. And so I knew her well. Me and my wife were there. She loved my wife. She knew about how I was, and I knew how she was. So really, we didn't court very long. As a matter of fact, one day, when me and her got together and went out and ate and talked a little while, and it wasn't long. And then 2 months, I called her one day. I said, "Do you want to get married?" And she said, "I really do." And you know what? We went to a courthouse and got married. There was a preacher there. And we got married, and he was a tongue-tied preacher. And we got married. And there were people who said, you hadn't been with her long enough. I knew her very well for years. We had never had any kind of, but I knew what she believed. I watched her faithful. She was a tither. She was a giver. All those years, her family, I knew their value system. I knew all. And so I felt as comfortable, even though we hadn't had a sexual encounter. I knew her. So we got married at the courthouse. And for dinner, we went out and really splurged, and we had nachos with some meat on it and shared the Diet Coke. And that, everybody thinks you've got to spend, and I'm not against, go spend $30,000. That's the going
awful
price for a wedding anymore. But all of that stuff is, that's free, don't mean anything.
That's right.
So we got married. We went to work that night, both of us. And so 26 years, and it's still working, and it's working beautifully.
Amen.
And but I knew her, and I think that's the whole secret to marriage. My first wife, I knew her. I hadn't known her, but when we got together and I met her in Houston, Texas, we spent time together. I knew her. I was just 18 years old, got married. And people said, that won't work. Worked for 30 years. But it's about a commitment and wanting to make it work. And so my wife told me, she said, I knew how you treated your first wife.
Yeah.
And so I knew how you were going to treat me.
That's powerful.
That's powerful, isn't it?
That's powerful.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And so I think it's all about how we treat each other, how we value each other.
Amen.
With that saying, I wasn't gonna say anything, but it's something what you said. People don't get to know each other now.
Yeah.
No.
They don't get to know each other the right way.
Right.
They get to know each other the wrong way.
They know each other biblically.
Yes. And so
Yeah.
then
They
get
knew
in this,
it. Yeah.
in this relationship, and they don't even know, like you said, don't even know they even like the person.
No.
Yeah,
You
that's
just
true.
get married and you
People get married,
so awful.
not all the time, but
Yeah,
most of the time people get married because they're in lust, not in love.
That's it.
Yeah.
So good.
And lust, there's hormones. Things start happening. You go wild. You act like a fool. You're married, but you're excited. There's all kind of hormones pumping. But that works for about 18 months to 24 months. That's how long it lasts. And then all of a sudden you come off of that. And now you got her or you got him. Do you like her?
That's it.
Do you like it? All of a sudden, I'm not driven by hormones. And so now I don't even like her.
Wow.
And that's the problem. You got to like them first.
Yeah. Wow.
And then choose to love them.
That's it. Choose to love them.
Mm-hmm.
Like them and choose to love them. I think that needs to be a T-shirt.
Yeah.
I've taught
Like
her
'em.
quite a few times.
Choose to love them.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
The next one, you went right into it. It was about Oh Glory to Oh Lordy.
Yeah.
And it is, the video where the man said, Oh Glory.
Yeah.
He's just so excited.
Yeah.
And like, again, 18 to 24 months later, experiencing confusion, frustration, and even regret. So how can you keep the old glory in your marriage so that you still feeling it 20 years later?
To be absolutely honest, you can't.
Amen.
You can't. I mean, this dream of you're going to continue to be a teenager.
That
You're going
is
to
so
continue to be, I mean, you have to mature in your love.
Yes.
And love is not just passion,
Yes.
sexual passion, but it's about, I tell her probably 4 or 5 times a day. I'm not putting myself up as a great person,
Yes.
but I tell her constantly that I love her. And she tells me the same thing. And it's not just, I just like to be with her. She's my favorite person.
Yeah.
I tell her I like to go riding with you.
Yeah.
It's, so quit trying to say, well, I don't feel like I did when we first got married. Well, of course you don't.
Okay.
Of course you don't. Not to say there's not excitement and passion, but it's not like, and it will not be, because hormones come down. And so you got to learn how to live. And I tell people all the time about other things. A lot of people have to live on a high to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Life is not about a high. Most of it is about the plains of life.
Yeah.
It's not about the deep valleys or the high hills. Those happen sometimes. But it's learning how to live every day
Yeah.
and be satisfied with the wife of your youth, is what the Bible says.
Yes.
And so how are you satisfied? Well, if she, put it on me, if I treat her like a prize, if I prize her and I cherish her, she's going to respond. And that's the reason the Bible said, husband, love your wife as Christ loved the church, because she cannot. I mean, you can't resist that kind of love.
Yes.
And so, but she does the same with me. She pampers me. And boy, I love her for it. But, people need to get off of this deal about, I don't feel like I used to feel. So I guess, with that concept, what you need is to run with some cheap something somewhere. Thank God for your wife. She's God's gift to you. Not because she was your soulmate, but because you both chose to be together. And God gifts us with that relationship, that choice.
Yeah.
So marriage is what you make it.
Amen.
It's what you make it. You put into it whatever you want out. And the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. And it certainly works with you, mate. But making that commitment to each other and being true to each other, loving each other. To me, it's so easy. And I just marvel that people are, it's kind of a bad thing to say, but some people are so dense because they want to act crazy, and yet they want it to work perfect.
Yeah.
And most people come to counseling. Most people come to counseling because they want somebody to side with them. Mm-hmm. And so I know one of the questions you told me you wanted to ask is about that very thing. Why don't people go to counseling? Because they're selfish and they only want to go if they think that they're going to side with them.
They can win.
And so when you get in counseling and somebody crosses you, and I'm going to tell you what, all of us have got room for improvement.
Yes.
And so you need to just say, hey, wait a minute, my life is open. Our marriage is open. We need help. And tell the truth about the way it really is. And then fix it. Don't wait, say, well, he got you tonight. You know, you have to just say, wait a minute, this is us. We're together, we're going to make this work, and we're committed to it. And listen, if you got a counselor that'll hold you to the Bible, you have a good thing.
That's it.
Amen. Bishop, with marriage being a covenant, can it be successful with unbelievers or unbelievers and believers?
Well, you're talking about an unbeliever married to a believer. Yeah, I think it's not God's will, number one. But if you are married, you get in church and you're married to an unbeliever, the Bible said for you to live the life in front of them. And so it's certainly difficult, but it can be done. But I always say to people, look, if you're not together, and that's getting to know people, having the same values, the same morals.
Yes.
If you're not together on that, you're probably not together and ready to get married. So I just don't like to marry people, and don't. If they're both unbelievers, I'll marry them and I'll give them a good Bible lesson. But if there's a believer and an unbeliever, no. That's just bad business. That's all you can say.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
What is the most crucial thing for a couple to have a long and great marriage?
Want it.
Want it.
If you want it, you can have it. If you want it God's way, a lot of people don't want it.
Do you want a good marriage? Do you want a successful marriage? That is the question. You can have it if you want it, but it is work.
Marriage works if you work it. You just got a lot of great information, great wisdom from a man with years of experience in both marital counseling and successful marriages. I pray that you're blessed. I pray that you